I'd like to introduce, this is Julius and Ruth. We're going to hear Julius's testimony right now, but I wanted you to get to meet his definite better half. So, Ruth, if you can just say hi, that'd be great.
Hi, my name is Ruth Wambua. I love the Lord, and I was married by Julius Wambua Kituku. We are pastors here in Machakos, the needy, the church, and we love the Lord because He has done a lot to our lives. Since we have entered into this ministry, we have seen God providing the poor people, to the needy, and to the whole church. Every Sunday we cook for each and every person in the church, but our main aim is to help the needy and the poor to have something to eat. So we love you people. Jimmy, I love you so much. You came into my life when I needed somebody like you. My heart is really in you, and I know with you we can go far.
Well, hallelujah. I fell in love with you guys, and I know it's a God thing. So, thank you so much. Julius, we want to get right into your story.
Hello, my good brother Jamie, and we're still missing you up to today. I met with this man at the airport, and it was really a ridiculous meeting. I was flying down to Mombasa to have meetings with my pastors there. It was an amazing meeting. About us, I am the pastor of Light Christian Center here in Machakos, whereby we planted the Church of Machakos in the year 2003. That's when we registered the church. And I've been working here with my wife Ruth, and I can say God is doing great things here in Machakos. Though with a lot of challenges, I take care for many children here, orphans here. I think Jamie was able to see them, and God has given us tremendous gifts here. And the Lord has helped us. I can say that this is the far God has taken us, because planting 7 churches, evangelizing and winning souls, that's the desire. That's what I want to do. I was not born as a very educated young boy. I was not born from a very wealthy family, but I can tell you, God can do great things. My father was a very educated guy who worked as an engineer, well educated, was taken all over in Europe to study. The story of my mother is the most weird story. How my mother got married was a crazy thing. I can tell you my mother was a most wonderful mother. She gave birth of 12 children, whereby I'm the 8th child. But the story of my mother is not a good story. She never decided to get married. But it was authored by my grandfather. Oh, my mother was 13 years old. She was a still young boy. But my father was 22, 23 years. My mother never decided to get married, but the woman just follow what the parents decide. So my mother got married to my father, and she was taken away from Machakos. She was taken to Makueni, which is another count away from her home. My mother was giving birth to me. There was a distance from where we lived to the hospital. There's only one doctor who attends the women who are giving birth. So my mother had a prolonged labor. The women decided to pick my mother up and cross the river, which just adjacent to where we lived. My mother, in pains of giving birth to me, when my mother was struggling to cross the river, and she's in pains and she's in labor, that's where she gave birth to Julius that you see here today, in the banks of the river. And the people now, my mother was struggling to pick me up from the river. And I was picked onto a cross. When they crossed the river, my mother said, I'll be called Wambua. Wambua means the son of the rings. Now, this is where there is a big mistake of the names. Because of that name, my mother would only remember me, and African women will remember you because of the circumstances they went through. They'll call you they will name you according to the circumstances that was around you. So do you know my life has been the worst in life because of that name? My mother called me and gave me that name, and almost every river in Machakos tried to take me away. My mother, after living with my dad, she was 6 months pregnant of the last born. Then my father retired. He came back home from the city. When he came there, he decided to divorce my mother. With the 11 children and the 12th child is still in the womb. He chased my mother away. But because my mother had so many children, and it's like we were so young that every year my mother gave birth. So if you put us together here, you can never know who is older than the other. We are like just twins. So my mother kind of hesitated about going back home to her parents. But my father forced my mother out. He took a machete and he split one side of her breast. The left side, she was cut with the machetes. And then my mother was forced out. There were no means of transportation from Makueni to Machakos. So it took my mother 3 weeks working with the children from another county to Machakos. She was coming back to her parents. She arrived after the last week. The third week, when she arrived there, the family never accepted my mother. My mother was considered and disgraced because, according to the African culture, when a woman comes back from a marriage, she is considered and disgraced. My mother was sent away to a mountain, which is a rocky place. You cannot do anything, you cannot build anything because it's that disgrace. She was sent to a rocky mountain, whereby that's where she brought us up. But there was no house, there was nothing. She built a shanty where she brought us up from. But it was sad because there was nothing she would feed us. You can imagine when you are rejected, you have nothing. And my mother is wounded and she's smelling all over. So I kind of lost my mind because of the pain, the suffering, and because we had nothing to eat. My mother was struggled to go and get a pot to boil water for us because there was no food, there was nothing. So I lost myself. My whole body suffered. We became so sick. Like me, I became so sick, and then we had bites over what do you call them, jiggers, bites, and all everything, and then my hands were swollen and my stomach became so big, and then for a while, for a long time, I didn't understand myself, but I know I was very sick until my rectum came off because of diarrhea. And jiggers beat me all over. I could not handle anything. And then I became like a dwarf, a child that cannot walk, I cannot move. My mother said when I was 9 years, I was not talking because I was a dwarf, because of the stigma of the pain, and because of the jiggers, because of lack of food, malnutrition, we all became sick. With all the pain we went through, my mother still loved us. She would boil water with nothing and give us to drink. And I don't know whether I am a miracle child, but I always consider myself a miracle child, but I suffered more than any other child. When I was 9 years, under the stigma of the pain of suffering, and because my rectum came off because of diarrhea, and because of lack of good food, my stomach grew big like this, but the whole body was like thin like this, and my head was so big. And then you could see everything. You could see my body is like I was a rotten boy, and my hands, because of jiggers bite, I could not do anything. And because my legs, I was not able to walk. neither crawl down like a little baby. At the age of 9 years, my mother decided to go and throw me away from my home where she took us, where we lived. She decided to walk over 16 kilometers through the forest. She came down to a big stone whereby the people of the old, they didn't have churches. They used to worship under a tree, a fig tree. So that was the only fig tree that was left remaining in that forest. My mother, without the fear, she wanted to come and throw me because I wasn't dead, but I was like a dead person. She came to throw me there. And after she arrived to that altar, which is like a church, which is like an altar, I don't know whether you understand about an altar, that she thought when she would throw me there, God will accept me. And she will have given me, handed me back to God. So she came to that altar, big stone, the fig tree, and she prayed and she took hold of me. She looked at me, and as she was throwing me, God opened my voice, and I called my mom. She said, I opened my eyes, and I looked at her, and I talked to her. I called my mom. I called her mom, and she took me back, and she carried me back home. That was the only word she ever thought she ever heard from me, because of the stigma of pains and suffering, because of the long period of suffering. My voice disappeared. It disappeared because I cried every day, and because of the stigma of the itching of the bites, the jiggers bite all over. Then it was like everything went off. It was like my brain was washed away. It was like the pain was too high. I couldn't comprehend it. So that was the only voice my mother had for me, and that's what the only voice she would confess of. I didn't have another voice, and she took me back. So it was now from there a long period. I don't know how I can tell you. My rectum went back. It's a long story from there. So she took me back, there was nothing still she would feed me us with. I don't know it was after how long now my rectum went back. But you know what she did? They used to put my rectum under a leaf so that the dog or any cat will not enter or penetrate in the house to lick my rectum. So they used to put my rectum under the they put the oil there, and then they put it to remain wet, so that I don't know how they would do that. So that's how my love was. So after that, I got lost and I became a child in the streets of Nairobi. I lived under the bridges because the river, the bridge which connects the South B and the slums of Mukuru, the biggest slum, that's where I lived. I lived there until 1990 when I was picked by a missionary pastor from Uganda. It was after floods which swept away some children, and I was left myself and another boy. So he's the one who picked me the following day in the morning, because the flood came during the night when we were sleeping under the bridge, and we never saw the rain. We only saw the water. We only saw the water, but the rain was from Gong Forest, the other north of Nairobi. So that water came down through the river, and that's where we were found. So from there, he took care of us, he nursed us, and he made me to look like a human being. I wasn't a human being. That is the year 1990. So the Lord took me a journey of 4 years from 1990, 4 years, to tremendously change my life. But there's something that I will tell you I never did during all these years of my street life. I never sniffed gum. Glue, do you know glue? those
Sniffing glue.
boys to sniff.
Sniffing glue.
Yes, I never did it, and I never smoked in my life. Although the kids would force me to do it, I never did it. So up to where the day God picked me from the river, I remained thinking about my mother every time, and I never knew where I came from. So the pastor decided in 1991 to send some people to search where I came from. So they were broke. They decided to search for me from Nairobi. They came to Machakos. They were guided to where my mother was. I met my mother in 1991. She was like a dead woman. She was so thin. She was almost dying. I looked at my mother. She thought I died long time ago. She never thought I'm alive. So from there, my mother picked me and we cried together and we cried. And because I saw there was nothing, but my mother had jiggers bite everywhere and she would not walk and she was tired. I pleaded with these guys who were sent by the pastor not to leave me there, to take me back to Nairobi so that I might look for something to do to help my mother. So they heard my voice and they took me to Nairobi. And there is where I decided I'll work hard to help my mother, to stand by my mother. So after that, for a long period of time, and I'm not able to explain the period of time, but God changed my life and gave me energy to work, slowly by slowly, gathering energy so that I may help my mother. And I tell you the truth, it's real. God is there and God is alive. So what happened to me later? After working and helping my mother 1994, November 29th, I got married to my wife. 1994, November 29th, I got married to Ruth, who knows my history from the beginning. She knows my history. Every corner of my life she knows. Even anything about my life, my wife can even write a book about myself. And I married somebody new who knew me. And where I come from, we were known as the poorest children who will never make it in life. They were waiting to bury us the following day, but God, who is so merciful and kind. That's why, Jamie, I love the poor people you saw here. That's why I love those women who are dying in this place. That's why I pick them from the rivers. I don't bring rich people in the church. I bring the poor people, whom you saw by yourself. I care about those kids who are from the streets with all the energy, with no money. I go to work to look for food for them, and you saw them, you are my witness. Those women, you saw them singing here. They are women who have been rejected because they were orphans and they were raped and they gave birth to kids. And they were not considered to be anything. But God sent me here to Machakos when He saw the needs. Now listen to me. After I got married in November 29, 1994, God helped us and He blessed us. I helped to plant the church that is in South so that they may give you more testimony about me. And I lived there for a while, 1995, 1996. And 1997, I got an invitation letter to come to US. I came to US in Houston. I lived in Alvin, Texas, where after a while I decided I want to study the Bible. In 1999, I decided not to stay in the US. I told them I want to go back to serve my people here.
While you were here for 3 years, there was a man that really mentored you and taught you about construction work, which was a God thing.
When I came to US, I met with Claude and Mickey Sue. They lived in Alvin, Clear Lake City. And this man was a great man of God. He used to do the paint work, renovations, and all these things. And he does construction works. So he trained me about constructions. He trained me about painting, and he trained me about tiles, So when I came over here with all the knowledge and the skills that I acquired from Claude and Mickey Sue, I decided to register a company for constructions. In 2014, on the fourth day, that was around 5 in the evening, we were recording. We have a studio. So the studio, I'd built it for recording, and it is one floor building. So at around 5, in a twinkling of an eye, I had the equipment that I was donated from US, all the equipment for preaching, for the equipment for our technical college, the equipment for the hairdressing, and the courses that we were doing to help the people to be self-sustaining people, because we need to show them how to fish. They eat the fish today, but teach them on how to fish. They'll be fishing them for themselves, and the burden will ease. So when we were recording there, we were over 20 choir members. Within a minute, I heard something striking so powerfully, and the building started coming down. All of it had about 7 classes. And we were to be evacuated so quickly. So as we were coming down so quickly, one girl, she was left up there. And she was in the balcony of the building. We told her to throw herself from the balcony. You saw her. She had to land down there. She had some minor injuries, but everything, these terrorists destroyed everything we heard. The only thing that was saved in 2014 on 4th was the church by the firefighters. They saved our church, and that's what you saw here. So whatever you saw there, down there, is new. We are just trying to put it, although the buildings are still there, not finished, no chairs, no seats, no glass, and they still there, no paint work, but we hope one day we'll finish it.
That was a terrorist bomb that went off that blew up
It
your
was
whole technical.
it was the first terrorism bomb in Machakos. There has never been another one. That was the first one. So the equipment for our training is gone. We don't have the hairdressing machines. We want to start the hairdressing school so that we may give skills to these people. We
Right.
want to start a mechanical training center. We want to start the building works. We train the people with skills on construction and paint work. Welcome to Light Christian Center, Machakos. This is our church location. And starting here is a cafeteria for the guests who comes to visit us on Sunday. This is where Pastor Julius lives with his family. Right? This Sunday school buildings, unfinished Sunday school buildings. This is our school, music and computers, and anything else there. This is our sanctuary. This is Desert Hunters. These are tourism company offices here in the compound of the church. This is the sanctuary. These are the restaurant. We are coming up with the new building up here. This is the main gate. This is the entry to the other side, and then this is the second main gate. Right? So the building is not finished. We are still trusting the Lord for the constructions, and then we intend to have 3 floors here, so that this one will be a training center, and that is exactly what we are thinking about. So the other side there, a small project for cars, but we call it a refuge center for some animals. This the two animals we were sent over here when there was severe drought in the country. Thank you very much. You're welcome to Life Christian Center. May God bless you. That's just a short picture, a short clip about us here at Machakos. I'm Pastor Julius, Light Christian Center, Machakos. God bless you all.